My friend, I think the volume is okay. Maybe start. Okay, thank you very much. Dear Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and dear colleagues, good morning and welcome to the Turkey's Pavilion. It's a great pleasure to see all of you here for this important panel titled Enhancing Synergy Among the Rio Conventions in the Context of Achieving NDC Goals. Firstly, I want to introduce myself. I am Professor Kasım Yenigün, General Director of Combating Desertification and Erosion under the Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change. At the same time, the national focal point in Turkey. On behalf of Turkey, I would like to warmly thank all of our speakers and guests for being here with us today. As you know, the three Rio Conventions, UNCCD, UNFCCC, and CBT all share the same big goal, protecting our planet's climate, land, and biodiversity. But we also know their challenges are deeply connected: climate change, land degradation, desertification, and biodiversity. Loss don't happen in isolation. If we want lasting solutions, we have to tackle them together. That's exactly what today's panel is about, exploring how stronger synergy among the conventions can help us deliver on our NDCs and the Sustainable Development Goals while learning from the real experiences of countries that have recently hosted COPs and other important environmental conferences. Today, we have many important guests here for sharing their experiences and knowledge. So, without further delay, let's get started. I am very pleased to invite our first distinguished speaker, representing the host country of COP30, Brazil, Mr. Alexander Payer. Yes. He is the Director of Desertification Control and at the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change of Brazil. He is the biologist with a master's degree in rural extension and local development. He currently serves as a Brazil's technical focal point to the UNCCD and as the executive.
Eu vou falar em português e tem uma pessoa que vai fazer uma tradução. Não sei se temos outro microfone.
This one.
Para, sim.
Okay, thank you.
Bom dia a todos.
He's going to speak in Portuguese and going to do the translation, okay, in English.
Bom dia a todos e a todas. Quero agradecer ao governo da Turquia pelo convite para compor esse painel de uma agenda que avalio ser fundamental para avançarmos no enfrentamento às mudanças climáticas, a sinergia entre as convenções do Rio.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank the government of Turkey for the invitation to join this panel, which addresses an agenda I consider essential for advancing our effort to tackle climate change, strengthening synergy among the Rio Convention.
A etimologia da palavra sinergia, que vem do grego e significa trabalhar em conjunto, reflete, portanto, a ideia de colaboração, esforço coletivo e coesão para atingir um objetivo comum. Isso se traduz no conceito moderno como uma ação coordenada, onde forças e grupos atuam de maneira conjunta, criando um efeito superior ao que cada parte poderia alcançar individualmente.
Etymologically, the word synergy originates from the Greek term synergia, meaning to work together. It reflects the idea of collaboration, collective efforts, and cohesion in pursuit of a common goal. In its modern sense, it refers to coordinated action in which different forces or groups work jointly, creating an effect greater than what each part could achieve individually.
Para aprofundar a sinergia entre as convenções do Rio, o UNFCCC, o UNCCD e CDB, apresento 3 pontos e alguns de seus desdobramentos como parte de reflexões do governo brasileiro, em debates recentes sobre a integração de agendas, governança ambiental global e implementação territorial.
To advance synergy among the Rio Conventions, UNFCCC, UNCCD, and CBD, I present 3 points and some of their implications, drawing from reflections of Brazilian government. In recent debates and agenda integration, global environmental governance and territorial implementation.
Primeiro ponto. Papel dos instrumentos de planejamento e financiamento climático de biodiversidade e combate à desertificação. O Brasil entende que a implementação das convenções do Rio exige planejamento integrado, orientado por evidências e alinhado às realidades territoriais.
First point, the role of planning instruments and climate, biodiversity, and land degradation financing. Brazil considers that implementing the Rio Conventions requires integrated evidence-based planning aligned with territorial realities.
Entre os elementos promovidos pelo Brasil, um deles, alinhamento entre as NDCs, a EPAMB e o PAN-Brasil, garantindo metas coerentes e mutuamente reforçadoras.
Among the elements promoted by the country, alignment between the NDC, CBD, and the revised PAN-Brasil, ensuring coherent and mutually reinforcing targets.
A defesa de fontes de financiamento sinérgicas, reduzindo fragmentação entre os fundos e ampliando linhas que atuem simultaneamente em mitigação, adaptação, restauração ecológica, manejo sustentável da terra e conservação da biodiversidade.
Advocacy for synergistic funding source, reducing fragmentation among financial mechanisms. GCF, GEF, Adaptation Fund, and expanding credit lines capable of acting simultaneously on mitigation, adaptation, ecological restoration, sustainable land management, and biodiversity conservation.
Reconhecimento de que as soluções baseadas na natureza devem estar integradas às políticas de clima, biodiversidade e desertificação, evitando sobreposição e maximizando impactos.
Recognition that nature-based solutions must be integrated into climate, biodiversity, and desertification policies, avoiding overlap and maximizing impacts.
Valorização de métodos de monitoramento integrados, clima, solo e biodiversidade, apoiando plataformas não sei que palavra é essa, interoperáveis e dados abertos. É isso.
Promotion of integrated monitoring methods, climate, soil, biodiversity, supporting interoperable platforms and open data.
Ponto 2. Governança territorial integrada, centrada em povos e comunidades locais e agricultura familiar.
Point 2. Integrated territorial governance centered on indigenous people, local communities, and family farming.
O Brasil sustenta que a sinergia das convenções só se materializa no chão do território. Assim, defende uma abordagem territorializada, baseada em instrumentos já consolidados no país, como o manejo florestal comunitário, convivência com o semiárido, agroecologia, restauração produtiva, sistemas agroflorestais, ILPF e práticas de comunidades locais.
Brazil upholds that synergy among the conventions is only realized on the ground. Therefore, it defends territorialized approaches based on the instruments consolidated in the country, such as community forest management, coexistence with semi-arid conditions, agroecology, productive restoration, agroforestry system, crop livestock forestry integration, and practices developed by local communities.
Fortalecimento de mecanismos de participação social nas 3 convenções, incluindo povos indígenas, comunidades locais, mulheres e juventudes, coerente com os cálculos reconhecidos pelas COPs recentes da desertificação e CDB.
Strengthening participation mechanism across the 3 conventions, including indigenous people, traditional communities, women, and youth, in lines with focuses recognized in recent COPs.
Articulação entre adaptação climática, combate à desertificação e conservação da biodiversidade, com foco em especial em regiões com maior vulnerabilidade climática, reconhecendo a centralidade das populações que vivem nessas regiões.
Coordination between climate adaptation, combating desertification, and biodiversity conservation, with special attention to regions with higher climate vulnerability and to the central role of the populations living in these territories.
A valorização do conhecimento local e comunitário como elemento-chave para a resiliência ecológica e climática.
Recognition of traditional and community knowledge as a key component of ecological and climate resilience.
Item 3.3. Desenvolvimento sustentável de base ecológica com transição justa, economia da sociobiodiversidade e combate ao desmatamento.
Point 3. Ecologically based sustainable development with a just transition, socio-biodiversity-based economy and deforestation control.
A sinergia entre as convenções do Rio devem gerar benefícios econômicos, sociais e ambientais, garantindo a redução estrutural do desmatamento e da degradação da terra como estratégia unificadora das três convenções.
Synergy among the Rio Conventions must generate economic, social, and environmental benefits, ensuring structural reduction of deforestation and land degradation as a unifying strategy across the three conventions.
A promoção de cadeias da sociobiodiversidade, bioeconomia florestal, sistemas produtivos de baixo carbono, integração, conservação, adaptação e combate à desertificação.
Promotion of socio-biodiversity value chains, forest bioeconomy, and low-carbon productive systems that integrate conservation, adaptation, and efforts to combat desertification.
Uma transição justa que considere o trabalho decente, a inclusão social, a inovação e acesso equitativo às tecnologias climáticas, agrícolas e de restauração.
A just transition that includes decent work, social inclusion, innovation, and equitable access to climate, agriculture, and restoration technologies.
A cooperação internacional reforçada na área de ciência, dados e inovação, aplicada à restauração de ecossistemas, manejo sustentável do solo e monitoramento de carbono, biodiversidade e terras degradadas.
Strengthen international cooperation in science, that's data and innovation applied to ecosystem restoration, sustainable soil management, and monitoring of carbon, biodiversity, and degraded lands.
Obrigado mais uma vez ao governo da Turquia e aos colegas, de Colômbia e Azerbaijão, pela oportunidade e que possamos seguir nesse diálogo no Panamá, durante o CRIC 23, e na Mongólia, na COP17 em 2026.
Once again, I thank the government of Turkey and our colleagues from Azerbaijan and Colombia for this opportunity. I hope we can continue this dialogue in Panama during IC23 and Mongolia at COP17 in 2026.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Alexander Pires. He is the representative of host country of that big events, big organization. Thank you very much for your inspiring intervention and for hosting this important COP organization here in Belém. Thank you very much. Yes, now we want to turn to the Panama, the host of the upcoming UNCCD CRIC 23 in December 2025, and we will be there after about 2 weeks, I think we will be there. And also Mr. Alexander also will be there. Maybe you will be in Panama. Our colleagues, Mr. Juan Carlos Monterrey, UNCCD National Focal Point and Special Representative for Climate Change of the Ministry of Environment of Panama, will share the country's experience in advancing synergy among the Rio Conventions. Panama has been very active in 2025, hosting several important environmental meetings, and its ongoing preparation for CRIC 23 reflect a strong commitment to bringing together biodiversity, land, and climate agendas. We look forward to hearing more about how these national and regional efforts are contributing to Rio synergies in practice. Mr. Juan Carlos Monterrey, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm going to start by outlining some truths. This is the cup of truth, so let's talk about some truths on synergies. Truth number one, the current system does not work. 33 years ago, here in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, we created the framework for the Rio Conventions, climate, biodiversity, and desertification. But we are nowhere near fulfilling the objective of each one of them. If we look at the climate space, we have more than double emission instead of cutting them. Yes, we slow down the pace of increase of emissions, but that is not enough. We're already facing a world near 1.5 degree Celsius average in global temperatures. If we look at biodiversity, we are on the pathway to assassinate half of all living creatures on Earth. And if we look at the certification, land degradation keeps expanding globally. So the honest truth, number one, is that we have failed. Truth number one, part of this failure, if not a lot of this failure, has to do with the fact that we have been addressing all these fights in silos. Climate people go one way, biodiversity people go the other way, land people go the other way. We cannot continue that route. Truth number three is that even though we need more money to address these challenges, there is still so many barriers and difficulties to access the money that is already on the table. If you look at the climate space on the financial mechanism, we have the global environmental funds that serve all the conventions. We have the Green Climate Fund and the Adaptation Fund that serve specifically the climate convention. But to access each one of these funds, we need to knock on three different doors. Three different doors that have completely application standards, that have completely review standards, and completely different reporting standards. So when we talk about synergies, it's not only about collaborating and bringing the topics together. It's about bringing the structures together, bringing the frameworks together, because we've had 33 years with the system that we currently have, and it's not taking us nowhere near where we need to be. If we expect the same system to deliver the results that we actually need, we need to change it. This is like when you deal with a toxic boyfriend or a toxic husband. He's going to tell you so many times that he's going to change, that he's going to do things differently, but you cannot expect change from him. You cannot expect anything different from him because he has shown you in the past what he's about and what he does. That's what happens with the Quorum framework. So here we came to promote this synergies conversation, and that is why we brought the three Rio conventions to Panama, the hat trick of environmental diplomacy, because we want to have everybody in Panama so that they can also hear this speech. On top of that, we have developed what we call the Nature Pledge. Part of the synergies is the fact that there are so many different reports that we need to develop for all these conventions. Right now, we're talking about 3 conventions, but there are more than 15 environmental and health conventions. Each one of them requests of governments at least 3 reports every 5 years. Let's do the math. 3 times 5 is 15 reports. Sorry, 45 reports. Some of these reports can cost you all the way up to $4 million if we talk about an NDC. Let's assume there are only about $500,000-ish. That is more than $20 million that we spend on international consultants that know nothing about realities, that we spend on fees for UN agencies that don't have the improvement of our realities in their number one priority. It's all about sustaining the financial system and business that they have created. Those are $20 million that don't go to conservation, that don't go to land restoration, that don't go to youth and women groups. So part of the synergies conversation is also creating a common reporting framework. And that is what Panama is doing. We have developed the Nature Pledge. The Nature Pledge is nothing more than the compilation of our climate, biodiversity, the certification, plastics, and ocean commitments in one document of 30 pages, so that any human can understand where is it that we want to go, so that any human can understand what are the priorities of the Panamanian government. In the past, all of this was split in 5 different documents. The next step that we're taking is that with the biennial transparency report from UNFCCC, we're going to integrate the 3 Rio conventions in just one transparency report and submit it to all the conventions. Why? Because time is running out. We need to be more efficient. Money is, every year money is lacking, so we need to be more efficient with time, but we also need to be more efficient with results. We are focusing on the reporting aspect of this game because no one else is really taking, a time to consider this. And we believe that if we fix this, maybe, just maybe, we can move a little bit faster. And that's why we have invited everybody to Panama this year. And we're going to continue inviting, because it's not only about the Rio conventions. We need to talk about the chemicals convention. We need to talk about CITES, Ramsar. All these conventions are just working on silos separately. We need to bring all of this together so that we are more efficient with time and more efficient with money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Monterrey, for your excellent contribution and for reinforcing the importance of integrated national actions. Those points are very important in our synergy activities and our joint goals of the world impact. Now, I want to give the floor to the Dr. Fuat Humbatov, Head of International Cooperation and Climate Change Division at the National Hydrometeorology Service of Azerbaijan. Dr. Fuat Humbatov is the chair of the UN ESCAP Technical Expert Group on Environment and Development and head of the International Cooperation and Climate Change Division of Azerbaijan's Ministry of Ecology. He serves as the National IPCC Focal Point, Article 6.4 Authority Representative, and a member of the COP29 Presidency Negotiation Team. As the host of UNFCCC COP29, Azerbaijan has valuable experience in aligning climate action with land degradation priorities, and we look forward to hearing your reflections. Floor is yours, Dr. Fuat.
Thank you very much, dear friends. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude. I'm highly privileged to be here in brotherly countries pavilion. Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepinize mutluluk diliyorum. My speech will be on the importance. What's the historical? The systems of that our COP29 presidency has initiated this Rio Trio initiative. It was, first of all, our COP presidency, Mr. Mukhtar Babayev has paid visit to various regions of the planet, Congo Basin, other the LDCs, LMDCs countries, and witnessed the necessity to bring the activities within the frameworks of these three conventions, is UNFCCC, CBD, and the UNCCD. What's the reason? I'd like to touch the scientific background of this issue. You know, right now we witness that there are a lot of conventions, but we could not find the integrated approach of these conventions. Without any scientific basis, scientific research, how we can converge these conventions, we could not find out the right way. Even in human, I say in the city planning, if you focus only on adaptation issue, we could miss the mitigation issues. So we have to interlink it of these two approaches. That's why I suppose in our task, as I'm also associate professor at the State University of Public Administration of Azerbaijan, we have to launch together to prepare some kind of pool of best practices within these three conventions, scientifically based, in terms of to prioritize main activities, maybe challenge, maybe trade-offs, maybe enablers of this implementation of these activities. For example, in Azerbaijan, what kind of activities we have done in terms of convergence of these three Rio Trio initiative. First of all, first time Azerbaijan has implemented the establishment first marine protection area in Caspian Sea. Yes, and within this project we have put main focus was the cultivating the rare species of the fish in Caspian Sea, installation in Caspian Sea. Another issue is water issues. In Azerbaijan, you know that a high shortage of water in Azerbaijan right now. So we trying to use the climate agriculture technologies in Azerbaijan and renewed drainage system in Azerbaijan. At the same time, we have been implementing a new methodology of the implanting the soil anti-erosion, anti-soil erosion. The forest strips between drainage and network of drainage system, collecting system, called drainage system. That's also some kind of the interlinkage of three activities. Within these three conventions. Moreover, I'd like to say that, for example, in Azerbaijan, in national adaptation plan in Azerbaijan that also was submitted to recently. We have cited all the interlinked, coordinated activities within this, the conventions. It's restoration of coastal Tugay forests. It's very rare forest in Azerbaijan. As right now, it's in the level of extinction, almost extinction. That's why we're trying to restore these strips. Planting soil stabilizing shrubs, as I mentioned, establishing anti-erosion forest area. All of these actions, as I mentioned, you know, that Azerbaijan is also the part of Bond Challenge, and we are going to restore more than 270,000 hectares of forest by 2030. This is also some kind of an initiative within of Rio 3 initiative, and we're aiming also to plant 5 million trees. It's also some kind of contributing carbon sequestration and conservation of biodiversity. What kind of additional issue? Okay, during COP29, Azerbaijan co-presidency have also launched the Baku dialogue on water for climate action. This is also, you know, the land and the water is the two main objects where we can integrate, converge activities on three conventions. And water, as you mentioned, water is a life. Water is a main source of the forest. Implanting forest restoration, afforestation. At the same time, water is a main source of the agriculture development. That's why smart agriculture development is very actual, is very important for Azerbaijan. Thank you very much.
Dr. Humbato, thank you very much for your impactful explains. And now we turn to the Colombia, the host of UNCBD COP16 last year. Our colleagues, Ms. Claudia Daza Escobar, focal point for the Convention on Biological Diversity and the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification at the International Affairs Office of the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development of Colombia. She will share how the outcomes of COP16 and the Global Biodiversity Framework help strengthen the links between biodiversity conservation and land restoration efforts, and we would also be very happy to hear reflections from Colombia's own national experiences and lessons learned along the way. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. On behalf of Colombia, I would like to thank the government of Turkey for hosting this important discussion. We also read the co-presidencies of the Three Rio Convention and all participants. Colombia continues to be firmly committed to advancing integrated action across the three conventions, recognizing the deep interdependence of climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation. Following on hosting of CBD COP16 in Cali, we emphasized the need to translate the common Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework into concrete actions that also contribute directly to the goals of the UNFCCC and UNCCD. It is crucial that the international structure move beyond soil approach and shift toward harmonized system-based implementation at national and territorial levels. Colombia has proposed medium-term dialogue among the Rio conventions with focus on showcasing integrated projects and technical dialogues, the link restoration, mitigation, and conservation, ensuring inclusive participation of indigenous people, Afro-descendants, and local communities, developing voluntary guidelines of nature and ecosystem-based solutions for use across all three conventions, optimizing existing technical mechanisms, avoiding duplication, and promoting shared learning and good practice, creating a common glossary for a key strategic terms to enhance concept clarity and policy alignment. Invite the Coalition of Finance Ministers for the Climate Action to promote coherence across finance flows, ensure additionally and above double counting. In updating on MBSAPs, Colombia explicitly integrate the commitments of all the three conventions. Land degradation neutrality is a threat across cross-cutting elements linked directly to the country restoration goals. Mitigation and adaptation actions are fully aligned with biodiversity priorities and land management strategies. Our MBSAPs promotes the sustainable landscape-based approach, combining restoration, conservation, and sustainable production. It was developed through board participatory processes involving multiple sectors, subnational governments, and IPLC. This experience demonstrates that integrated planning is possible when there is alignment between the policy frameworks and territorial realities. Colombia reaffirms that the tools and the policy frameworks to enable synergies among the three conventions is already exists. We want remand is to scale up the institutional, political, and financial mechanisms that make integration a reality. We call, we call for enhanced leadership, straighter coordination, and shared responsibility to bring synergy from the negotiation halls to the territories. Colombia stands ready to collaborate with all of you with these collective efforts. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Claudia Daza Escobar. Now we will give the floor to the Mongolia's representative, but I have seen many colleagues from UNCCD, and I want to invite him to here. We will give him the microphone to explain some comments about our issue. Now, from Mongolia, the upcoming host of UNCCD COP17, our colleagues Ms. Narangarau Altangerel from Mongolia is here. She is the senior analyst in the International Cooperation Department of the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change of Mongolia and serves as the national focal point to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Green Climate Fund. She will share how Mongolia's ongoing works initiative with regards to the UNCCD COP17, as Mongolia is already deeply engaged in preparations for COP17. We know that key themes such as desertification and land degradation, sand and dust storms, and drought will be high on the agenda. We would be very interested to hear how these priorities are being shaped and how the upcoming COP17 might further enhance collaboration among the Rio conventions. Yes, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So, just melting down. Yeah, can't breathe and can't be cool down for whole 1 week. But I'm happy to be here to continue my engagement with the other colleagues from the UNFCCC and the other colleagues from the international countries and international communities. So before going to my conversation and intervention, I would like to give you a little background information about Mongolia. Why Mongolia is hosting UNCCD COP70 next year? You could ask, right? So Mongolia is a very broad and very vast country with a small population. We only have 3.5 million people living in Mongolia, and more than half of that population are living in a countryside, and half of them are living in a small city. So we've been facing with the huge and very difficult challenges related with the environmental problems, not only the certification, but also like air pollution and the water pollution and the other soil pollution and every aspects, every problems related with the biodiversity, climate change, and also the certification has been challenged by Mongolia. So more than 70% of Mongolian land is affected by the certification. That's why we want to host, that's why we want to raise this agenda at international level, is the reason for Mongolia to hosting UNCCD COP17 next year. And frankly saying, I was used to work more on climate change since 2019. So I'm expert at climate change, right? And in relation with the decision that Mongolia is hosting UNCCD COP17 next year, I participated in the UNCCD COP16 and also UNCBD COP16 in Cali and Riyadh. And that was my first time to attending the other two conventions from the Rio 3 conventions, right? So that was amazing. The CBD COP was amazing, CCD COP was amazing, and after participating both 3 COPs last year, I understood that we have to collect and we have to unify all the efforts, not only at national level, but also international level. So for national level effort, Mongolia is having quite good effort on that, because all the NDCs, all the NBSAP, all the LDN are closely aligned with the Mongolian government action plan. That is a short-term government policy, right? And as well as the Mongolian long-term action plan, Vision 2050. So all the efforts, all the policy planning process is quite closely aligned with the national level. That's what I can say. Mongolia has been doing and has been having some achievement in the policy planning stage. In addition to policy planning process, Mongolia is also having a very good achievement in terms of the budget planning. I mean, the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, the main focal organization for all of these 3 conventions, is really closely and very effectively collaborating with the Ministry of Finance in order to reflecting all the necessary budget in terms of all these problems. So on the other hand, we have to increase, we have to improve, enhance our international collaboration is what I want to say today to all of you, my colleagues, so that we could achieve and we could have the real result from global agenda into the grounded action, grounded result, right? And as a incoming presidency of UNCCD COP17, Mongolia is planning to announce and adopt 3 main initiatives during COP17 next year. Those 3 initiatives also really I can say that those 3 initiatives also aligned within each other and within the climate change, biodiversity, and the certification items under the Rio 3 Convention. So first initiative is integrated water and land nexus. And second initiative is nature-based solution for resilient infrastructure. And third initiative is international rangeland initiative. So these are the main three initiatives that Mongolia is planning to announce during UNCCD COP17 that we could have, that we could ensure that we could also raise this synergy among Rio3 Convention next year. So I would like to welcome all of you next year, and I would like to invite all of my colleagues who are presidency of all the COPs, including Colombia, Brazil, maybe Turkey, and KSA, Saudi Arabia, and other the COP presidency countries to improve our engagement in this item. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much to Ms. Altangerel. I am sure you will act so successful COP next year for COP17 in Mongolia, in Ulaanbaatar, I think. Yes. Thank you very much. Before the finishing our side event, I want to give the floor to Mr. Gabriel Lambert, is advisor to the Executive Secretary of the UNCCD with more than 15 years, not 50 years, yes, of international experience in strategy, program coordination, and institutional strengthening across the UN and government partners. At UNCCD, he provides high-level political and strategic guidance and supports the International Drought Resilience Alliance. We want to hear from you some commitments about our issue.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks to Turkey for the invitation. I'm very proud to be representing a Rio Convention Secretariat. I would have liked to have other colleagues of the other secretariat here, but I'm very proud to be surrounded by the presidencies here. I will echo some of the comments and words that was made by Juan Carlos before. Clearly, we are not up to speed and there are many challenges ahead of us. We haven't been fast enough and efficient enough. That is very clear. He mentioned alignment of financial institutions to fund actions in the ground, difference in reporting mechanisms that are also very complex to be addressed. This is clear. However, from the UNCCD perspective, we have to remind some things. We are conventions that are in the hand of countries. So countries are making the appropriate decisions to push this forwards. And we have to keep some hope here because we are not going fast enough. This is clear, but there are some good things happening and we have to continue promoting this. From the UNCCD perspective, we have also to recall a thing that land should be a central part of the solution. This is clear that land is where we grow food on it. It's storing water. It's where people are getting their livelihood from. So this is very important to be considered as part of the solution of the global combat against climate change. So this is at the core of the solution, and we had a very successful COP last year in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. For the first time, the UNCCD had a very large attendance. Just in terms of numbers, it reached around 70,000 people, which is something that was never seen at the UNCCD level. And for the first time, there was also two things on the negotiation or political track, very important decisions. One on agricultural land restoration. That was the first time that the UNCCD addressed agriculture as land and agricultural land restoration within its decision. As said Alexander, the Indigenous People Caucus and Local Community Caucus has been is a decision that has been taken at COP16 that is clearly also putting the people at the center of the convention. And there was also some synergies decision. And on the side of the political process, there was for the first time also the action agenda. That is somehow a copy-paste of what is happening in the climate process. And which is good because this is something that we can now come and follow up. When we see here, this year, the COP30 action agenda, there are a lot of similarities with the thematic days that are currently addressed. And that will be continued and addressed in the COP17 in Mongolia. And the UNCCD is part of the synergetic effort. We are part of this COP30 action agenda, at least on two axes, on the ecosystem restoration and land restoration, as well as on the agricultural sustainability management. So we are working closely with the COP30 presidency to address this challenge and to make especially food system that is and soil health that is getting a lot of centrality now, to take this forward and further, not only to stay as an achievement of COP30 action agenda, but we will take it from there to the UNCCD COP17 action agenda and further again and further again. So I echo also my colleague from Mongolia that welcome to everyone next August in Mongolia for the very promising COP that the UNCCD will be having in Ulaanbaatar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Mr. Gabriel Lambert to his important commitments. As we conclude, I would like to emphasize three key takeaways from today's discussion. First, that synergy among the Rio Conventions is not only a policy aspiration, but also a practical necessity to achieve our NDCs and SDGs. Second, that effective synergy requires cross-sectoral collaboration, linking climate policy, land management, biodiversity conservation, and community action under the integrated framework. On behalf of Republic of Turkey, I extend our gratitude to all panelists and participants. Let us continue our cooperation to prevent, health, and reverse land degradation while enhancing resilience for people and ecosystem alike. Thank you very much for your joining us and your explaining your commitments and good knowledge and sharing your experiences. Before of the closing that events, I want to give some mini gifts from Turkey. Our calligraphs prepared your names on a, I think good, and we hope we will see you next year in Turkey in COP31 in Antalya, a good city of Turkey. Thank you very much for your contributions.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Şebnem Karagürbüz. I am the representative of Turkish Marine Environment Protection Association, shortly TURMEPA. It's a great honor to be here with you, with valuable experts and leading names around the world. I would like to thank the Director of Climate Change of our ministry for working together with the same goal. In this session, we will discuss about the silent heroes, seagrasses and blue carbon. Seagrass best in combating climate change crisis, seas as a sink area in combating the effects of the climate change, and protection of the seas through state, NGO, cooperation and importance of blue carbon. Our speakers are Mr. Javier Manzanares, Board Chairman of the Biocarbon Standards, Çağıl Toparlak Alkan, she is the Project Manager at the TURMEPA, and Professor Ergün Taşkın will join us about the scientific projects about the TURMEPAs. We are gathered here because we share the same purpose to build a sustainable blue future and livable future together. We know that very clearly we can change the future of our common home, our world together. Before we start, I would like to give you a brief information about Turkish Marine Environment Protection Association. TURMEPA was formed 31 years ago by Rahmi M. Koç and the Chamber of Shipping of Turkey. Our mission is protect our seas and environment. We have a short video about projects of TURMEPA.
...30 yıldır mavinin izindeysek buna değer. Aldığımız her iki nefesten birini borçlu olduğumuz denizleri korumak için elimizi taşın altına koymak, denizlerin, okyanusların, su varlıklarının ve gezegenin yarınlarına umut olmak bu renge değer. 30 yılda dalga dalga büyüyerek kocaman bir aile olduk. Oysa kalbi mavi için çarpan bir avuç gönüllüyle çıkmıştık bu yola.
Çok emek verdik. Neticede zannediyorum ki başarılı olduk. Ve bugün TÜRMEP'a gerek yurt içinde, gerek hükümet nezdinde, gerekse yurt dışında bilinen, tanınan, saygınlığı olan bir kuruluş haline geldi.
Projelerimiz ve işbirliklerimizle Türkiye'de masmavi bir dönüşüm başlatmak, kirlilikle mücadele eden filomuzla denizlerimizi her yıl tonlarca atıktan kurtarmak, verdiğimiz eğitimlerle milyonlarca kişiye maviyi sevdirmek, yolculuğumuzun her saniyesine değer.
30 yıllık TÜRMEPA serüveninde şunu söyleyebilirim ki artık denizi asla kirletmeyecek nesiller yetişiyor.
Aklımız yarınlarda, gözümüz ufukta. Ne yorulmak biliriz, ne dinlenmek isteriz bu saatten sonra. Çünkü tam 30 yıldır verdiğimiz bu mücadele denize değer. Deniz varsa hayat var.
Hope you enjoyed it. I would like to give you a brief examples of TÜRMEPA's contributions for the blue issue for 31 years. We introduced Turkey's first sea sweeper and developed a liquid waste collection fleet. We also believe that protecting the sea starts with education. Since our establishments, we have reached more than 9 million people through the marine and environmental training, inspiring new generation. We have more than 11,000 volunteers to support us. Also, we have eco-friendly cleaning products with a wide range, such as shampoos, shower gel, also floor cleaning. The strongest muscle of TÜRMEPA is education since the beginning. Education and trainings are always our priorities. We have worked with the Ministry of National Education closely and have provided sea environmental trainings. We have 4 coding classrooms in different parts of Turkey, 2 of them in Istanbul and 2 of them in Hatay, which is earthquake area. In collaboration with the Ministry of National Education, we have prepared education and awareness videos. These were uploaded to the online student and teacher platforms of national education. Another strong muscle of TÜRMEPA is our waste collection boats and sea sweepers. As far as we know, we are the only NGO in the world has a fleet to collect waste and prevent pollution. We have carried exemplary projects in collaboration with Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change to protect our unique base in the Aegean and Mediterranean base with the support of sponsors, of course. TÜRMEPA vessels collecting liquid waste from yachts and tourist boats during the summer season, 4 months, and prevented millions of liters liquid waste. Currently, we have 3 sea sweepers, 2 in Bosphorus and 1 in Lake Van, which is the largest lake in Turkey. And every year we have collected more than 100 tons of solid waste, plastic, metal, textile pieces from the surface, including the mucilage. Of course, all these achievements I have mentioned cannot be reached alone. Our volunteers are always with us. Thanks to our volunteers from every segment of the society, numbering more than 11,000, we take our steps with much more confidence. Also with coastal cleaning movement since 1994, TÜRMEPA, raising corporate awareness of companies for conservation of seas. With those activities, we encourage voluntary participations of individuals and institutions also. In addition, all of these contributions, there is a big movement that I would like to mention specifically. It's called Zero Waste. After the revolution that the Zero Waste project has created in our country in 2017, it has moved an international level. As Turmepa, we joined this great movement and added Blue to the Zero Waste project. Zero Waste project, which has become an international movement, also protect the seas and oceans. We achieved this by acting as a catalyst with Zero Waste Blue project, NGO structure that involves elements of civil society, the private sector, and the public sector helps countries addresses these issues more successfully. And we did exactly that with the Zero Waste Blue project. We educated the people, and we did exactly working with the Ministry of Education, included volunteers in every step of our project, activated our sea sweepers and liquid waste collection votes with the sponsorships of private sector, organized coastal cleanup activities throughout Turkey with the help of our municipalities and Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change. We used the power of social and mass media and got in touch with the influencers, journalists to spread the word. The Zero Waste Blue can be a role model for the countries that want to achieve similar results. As a final, we have a Blue Bread project which we would like to show you. Through the Zero Waste Blue movement, we started the National Zero Waste Initiative to seize mobilizing volunteers, municipalities and private sector. For example, with Blue Bread project, which we carried out in cooperation with Garanti BBVA since 2021, 3 sea sweepers are working currently. We have collected more than 300 tons of solid waste from the Bosphorus and Lake Van. Also, Blue Bread project, Blue Bread education bus visited seaside cities every year around the Sea Marmara, and we educated more than 100,000 children and 5,000 teachers with this bus. And online sea training educations. 2 years we have started scientific project under the water and started ecosystem project with the BBVA again. This is our bus, Blue Bread bus. We have a motto that while there is a sea, there is life. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Here I will pass the stage to Ms. Çağıl Toparlak Alkan.
Thank you, Şebnem. Hello, everyone. It's great pleasure to meet all of you. In Turmepa, we have a motto about the bread. We point of our bread. Let's do together breathing exercise, if it's possible. We take a 2 breath together, and also, first of all, and second one. Yeah, thank you for your breathing. One of every 2 breath we take from seas and oceans. This is really important point of our area. When we address the climate crisis, we are not only addressing nature and the seas, but also every part of our lives, our present and our future. Seas and oceans pump blood to the heart of our world with all of the value they carry. For this reason, ecological threats to the seas cause a domino effect. in our lives. As you can see, we need to protect our oxygen source. A lot discussed in their meetings from the first week. Funds were created to mobilize. So how we did get the Boeing era? As UN Chief Antonio Guterres said, did everything happen in the blink of an eye? Our Earth is almost 4.56 billion years old. In the book, The Most Beautiful Story of the World, The Mysteries of Our Origin, by the famous astrophysicist Hubert Reeves, reduced the birth of the world to 24 hours and summarized the history of our planet as follows. If we reduce the existence of our world on 24 hours, in the last 5 minutes before the midnight, humanity steps on the stage. In 1% of the last 1 second, the Industrial Revolution started and the damage is done to the world by us. So as humanity, we changed the climate in 1% of a second and unfortunately entered the boiling age. Let's take a brief look at what did we 1% of a second. The first threat is plastics. Plastics we cannot give up, or rather choose not to give up, entered our lives in the 1950s. We use more than 40% plastics only once and throw them away. And also recycled only 9% plastics, and we burn 11%, and also 79% stays in landfill or the environment. And every time, the last address is unfortunately seas and the oceans. More than 8 million tons of plastics reach the seas and oceans every year. Oceans become their home for almost 500 years. Millions of creatures die for the plastics. We consume the plastics the size of the credit card every week. According to international research, there are microplastics in what we eat, drink, the air of breath, and even in breast milk. The second important threat is greenhouse gases. We already crossed the critical threshold. The amount of greenhouse gases released into the atmosphere every year has reached 50 billion tons. Due to this layer, which we call the greenhouse gas effect, temperatures are increasing very fast. The world is almost trapped in its own atmosphere, is getting warmer. According to the Paris Agreement, our goal is very clear: to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees if possible, or no more than 2 degrees if not possible. We must all make the efforts in this regard. This year COP30's main agenda include keeping the Paris Agreement's 1.5-degree target alive and spend all our effort to achieve this goal. In an environment where such important and urgent action need to be taken. Historically, Turkey has less than 1% impact to global climate change, yet it's still doing its best. As Turmepa, we are association contributing to these important steps, particularly through the Zero Waste Blue project, as Şebnem mentioned. As a result, we must harness the renewing power of nature, and our most important ally in this regard is definitely the seas and ocean. To combat climate change, we must also recover what has been lost. We must protect our natural carbon sinks. For example, seagrass beds, mangroves, sea forests, and also marshes. That is why, as Turmepa, we have taken a fight underwater to protect our most important oxygen source in the seas, such as seagrass beds and corals, and to increase their resilience to climate change. The solution we seek to protect our world lies beneath the seas. Seagrass Posidonia oceanica, a species unique in Mediterranean seas that can found at depth of up to 40 meters from the coast, has suffered significant destruction in recent years. Approximately 90% of seagrass Posidonia oceanica in the Mediterranean basin, covering around 15,000 hectares, has been destroyed. Seagrass bed provides shelter, protection, and breeding ground for many marine species, protecting the coastlines and preventing erosions. However, their most important effect is that they produce most of the oxygen in the world. Conservation and restoration project must encompass seagrass beds, plankton, and in short all seas and oceans, which it produces 14 liters for oxygen per square meter. Yes. In Bluebird projects carried out cooperation with Garanti BBVA, we planted more than 10,000 seagrass shoots in Göcek, in their area, in 3 different areas in the south side of Turkey. For the first time in Turkey, we achieved a 70% survival rate in seagrass restoration, a remarkable success compared to previous race presentation. Has got a determined age of seagrass meadow for the first time in Turkey is the same project. The age of seagrass meadow is 13 years old. This colony discovered in Mediterranean Sea, proving how ancient and resilient these ecosystems truly are. In another, this is our Bluebird project in Göcek, south of Turkey.
Fethiye Göcek, özel çevre koruma bölgesi. Eşsiz mavi güzelliği, endemik bitki türleri ve zengin biyoçeşitliliğiyle ülkemizin en önemli değerlerinden biri.
Very famous
Deniz
touristic
turizmiyle
area in
ülke
Turkey.
ekonomisine
Maybe
katma değer sağlayan
they will
Göcek,
visit us.
her yıl binlerce turisti tekneler ve yatlarla denizlerinde misafir ediyor. Bölgede her geçen yıl artan yoğunluk, oksijen kaynağı deniz çayırlarına zarar veriyor. Deniz Temiz Derneği Turmepa, bu eşsiz bölgenin maviliğini korumak için 30 yıldır çalışıyor.
Turmepa'nın Göçek'le 30 yıllık bir bağı var. 30 yıl önce Turmepa Göçek'te ilkleri başlattı. Sıvı atık teknelerimiz, okulumuz, eğitimlerimiz, mapalar, şamandıralar hepsi bu çok özel bölgede gerçekleştirildi. Buranın çok önemli bir özelliği var. Diğer güzelliklerimize göre çok daha kapalı bir alan. Dolayısıyla Göçek daha da ayrı ve hassas bir koruma gerektiriyor.
Turmepa, Marmara Denizi'nde başlattığı Mavi Nefes projesini bu kez Göcek'e taşıdı. Çevre Şehircilik ve İklim Değişikliği Bakanlığı, Tabiat Varlıklarını Koruma Genel Müdürlüğü koordinasyonunda, Garanti BBVA sponsorluğunda deniz biyoloğu Profesör Doktor Ergün Taşkın yürütücülüğünde Mavi Nefes Göcek, deniz çayırlarının izlenmesi, korunması ve ekimi projesini hayata geçirdi. Projenin ilk deniz çayırı ekimi 6 Mayıs 2024'te Göcek Tersane Adası'nda gerçekleştirildi.
Bakanlığımız olarak bizler özellikle Sayın Bakanımız Mehmet Özaseki ve Genel Müdürümüz Abdullah Uçan Bey sayesinde bu güzel projelerle daha da yaygınlaştırarak ortak geleceğimiz denizlerimizi korumak istiyoruz. Umarız buradaki alınan tedbirlere bütün vatandaşlarımız uyar ve hassasiyetle, özenle projemize sahip çıkarlar. Tabiat Varlıklarını Koruma Genel Müdürlüğü olarak deniz ve kıyı ekosistemini korumak üzere birçok önemli projeler yürütmekteyiz. Bu konuda bizleri destekleyerek manevi ve maddi desteklerini esirgemeyen TÜRMEPA Yönetim Kurulu Başkanı Şadan Kaptanoğlu'na, Genel Müdür Semiha Öztürk'e ve çalışma ekibine, projemizde yürüten Ergün Taşkın Hocam ve bütün çalışma arkadaşlarına da özellikle teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum.
Deniz çayırı Posidonia oceanica, Akdeniz'in akciğeri olup 1960'lı yıllardan itibaren gerileme göstermektedir. Mavi Nefes projesi kapsamında Tersane Adası'nın belirlediğimiz bu alanında demir platformlar üzerine toplamış olduğumuz Posidonia fidelerini doğrudan daha önce belirlenen derinliğe transplantasyonu gerçekleştirdik.
Transplantation
Proje
operation.
kapsamında Posidonia oceanica'nın yayılışı, izlenmesi, korunması, bölgede alansal ve noktasal baskıların tespiti ve daha sonrasında alt derinliklerde izlemeye yönelik çalışmalarımızı gerçekleştireceğiz. Amacımız Posidonia oceanica'nın hem korunması hem izlenmesi hem de iklim değişikliği ve küresel ısınmayla birlikte mücadelede kullanılması ve tehdit altında olan bu türün daha fazla bir alana yayılmasını sağlamaktır.
Mavi Nefes'in Marmara'da başlayan yolculuğu önce Adrasan'a, oradan Van Gölü'ne ve şimdi de Göç'e uzanıyor. Çok teşekkür ederiz.
3 yıl
Okay. And another project in the Gulf of Saros, we work with Istanbul University and Garanti BBVA and protect biodiversity. We identified key habitats, recorded nearly 1,000 marine species and proposed for no fishing zone to Ministry of Project Fragile Ecosystem. We even cleaned the mucilage, reduced the gorgonias and stony corals, taking hands on action for ecosystem recovery. These projects show us one truth. The cure we seek lies beneath the seas and ocean. At TÜRMEPA, we believe that progress begins with partnerships. Through science, education, and collaboration, we can heal our seas and secure the blue heart of our planet. As we look to the future, our mission remains the same: to hand over a livable world and clean seas to the next generations. Thank you for attention.
Hello. Now it's coming another presentation. Hello to everyone. Now I'll stand up for my presentation. Thank you so much for coming over. Our appreciation to the Turkish authorities, the pavilion for hosting us. We're very happy to see this large crowd. Unfortunately, that's not enough seating arrangements, but please do feel like contributing into the topic. Today is about the silent heroes of blue carbon. And why do we say silent heroes? Because seagrass beds only occupy 0.2% of all the ocean floors. Only 0.2%. But despite being such a small number, seagrass beds, they take about 10% of all total carbon sink in the ocean. So that's a large percentage. We can see that as much as 7% of the declining of the seagrass beds is happening on 1 year after another. And I would like you to follow me on the following. So we have the seagrass beds, the seagrass meadows. When it is disturbed, the sediments, once that they get disturbed, they let the CO2 that has been sunk into the ocean, they let it go up into the atmosphere. And the problem is not only that the sediments are being disturbed and the CO2 is emerging. The problem is that those sediments have accumulated CO2 for centuries, for so many years, that it's almost irreplaceable. It would take another hundreds and hundreds of years for the sea grass bed to accumulate and to sink the carbon. So it's a terrible destruction and a terrible footprint that is creating. Not only that, but also the meadows, the seagrass meadows, they can sink in as much as at least 3 to 5 times more than tropical forest. So the importance is amazing, and it's still, there is not that much talk in the community about the seagrass beds. So today, we would like you to gather together with us and make sure that for the years to come, this is part indeed of the agenda of all the COPs. Up to 90% of the carbon is buried in deep, long-lived sediments, as we have mentioned before. And when we talk in the carbon markets about quality, about integrity or carbon credits, seagrass beds are considered as a very high integrity blue carbon. And what are the main reasons? Carbon power, deep sediment storage, strong co-benefits, market readiness, and certificability, and coastal resilience. So we consider these meadows, ocean meadows, as the most efficient natural carbon sinks out there. We've spoken about the sediment of the carbon before, and it brings on top of that not only mitigation for climate change, but very importantly, adaptation and co-benefits. So we see that protect the biodiversity of the nurseries, they support the fish productivity, and they improve water clarity. So up until now, the main standards out there, and biocarbon being one of those up the upfront, they have established methodologies to calculate the amount of CO2 in tons that is either avoided or that is captured. So those methodologies are already at the disposal of countries and at the disposal of projects. And we will see the differences between some standards like I would say Vera and Bureau and Gold Standard and biocarbon. And I hope you get the message today that biocarbon standard through the BCR 0012 methodology brings about the most robust and solid standard for blue economy and blue carbon. Let me bring you back to the topic of how the seagrass beds get disturbed and how does it happen that the sediments ended up emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. So think about dredging. Think about a coastal development that is not very supportive of sustainable oceans. Think about expansion of tourism infrastructure that is not done in a way where we protect oceans. Think about boat anchoring Think about all of those cruise ships, all of those yachts that they just throw the anchor and they just remove and dredge the seagrass, the meadows. Also think about pollution, sediment loading, agriculture displacement, and several other reasons on why the meadows are being disturbed. So high integrity blue carbon methodologies are out there, and today we're talking about biocarbon. And biocarbon as a BCR0012 that is available in the web page of the biocarbon standard. I think one of the important topics, and this can get very technical, but for all of you who are either marine engineers or environmental engineers, so think about the above ground measurement of biomass, the below ground biomass, and the mandatory soil organic. All of that is computed within this methodology. At Biocarbon, we use a 10-year historical analysis on data. Some other standards only use 3 years or 5 years. I think it's important to highlight that for biocarbon, we take a 5-year historical analysis. Very importantly as well, that biocarbon is aligned with the IPCC sampling and precision. So this is being used as an IPCC 2006 with the wetland supplement of 2013. Very importantly, the MRV system that is integrated with all the requirements and all the indicators. And I believe the important aspect of permanence, when you talk about core carbon principles, one of them, probably the most difficult to prove for the projects, is permanence. Since we're speaking here about sediments, and sediments bring hundreds of years of CO2 sunk into the meadows of the ocean, the permanence is one of the core carbon principles that we abide by regardless. So now the important aspect is, how do we get financing for the protection, conservation, restoration of the seagrass beds? And I think we should think about first advising countries to include this in the NDCs. We advise international organizations and funds to move towards the protection of seagrass beds, as they have done with plastic, they have done with coral reefs. I think it's about time that we do it for the seagrass meadows. And without that type of financing and support to countries, it is extremely difficult to protect the ocean floors, right? So protecting seagrass preserves centuries old carbon stocks while delivering measurable climate, coastal, and biodiversity benefits. So thank you so much. Pleasure being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Javier Manzaranes. The solution, the cure we are looking for is under the water, definitely. The message was very clear. Thank you very much for your valuable contributions again. Now, Mr. Ergün Taşkın, Professor Dr. Ergün Taşkın, which who carried the transplantation of the seagrass beds, are joining us from Turkey. Hello, Mr. Professor Taşkın. The word is yours. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Now it's okay.
Yeah, hello to everybody. Hello Şebnem, hello Çağıl. Yeah, I will present the role of Mediterranean endemic seagrass Posidonia oceanica in the Turkish seas and restoration of encourage damage in the meadow. Yeah, there are three main phytobentic habitats in the Mediterranean Sea and Turkish coast. First one, seagrasses such as Posidonia, Cimodocea, Zostera. Second one, macroalgal phosphates, marine forests, Sistuzera and Sargassum, and calcareous red algal habitats. So Turkey is washed by four seas of different oceanographic characters. For example, salinity is very different between coast such as Black Sea, Marmara Sea, and Asian and Mediterranean coast. In total, 60,000 species are now in Turkey. About 6,000 marine fauna and macrophyte and phytoplankton are known and distribution in the Turkish coast and Turkish seas. Distribution of macrophytobentic species very different between seas, such as 9 and 10 meters in Black Sea, this Zostera community, and 14-15 meters in Sea of Marmara, and seagrass and marine forest distributed to 30 and maybe 40 meters depth. Seagrass, Posidonia oceanica, or is known Neptune seagrass, is a marine flowering plant, and it has horizontal and vertical rhizomes. It is distributed in the Mediterranean Sea. It is a Mediterranean endemic. It's spread from shallow waters to 40-45 meters depth, and it is found only in salty and clean waters. Posidonia oceanica meadows are one of the planet's most productive ecosystem. It has ecological, physical, economical, and bioindicator roles in the Mediterranean Sea. It is produce up to 14 liter oxygen per day. However, it has been under pressure in the Mediterranean, such as trawling, anchoring, pollution, marine transportation, harbor, marina, intensive coastal use, aquaculture, climate change, global warming, alien and invasive species, overgrazing by sea urchin, and daily touristic activities. Seagrass Posidonia oceanica is a main habitat in the Turkish Mediterranean and Aegean Sea, and also in Sea of Marmara. We calculated the coverage of Posidonia oceanica in Turkey, and we found about 100,000 hectares covers in Asian, Turkish Asian coast, Mediterranean coast, and Sea of Marmara. But we think that it has about 120 to 130 hectares in Turkey. Recently, we found and we estimated to approximately about 2,000 years old in Fethiye Göcek. These meadows, have a look for these meadows about 2,000 years old. it starts to from 18 meters depth to 26 meters depth. We calculated it by average annual growth rate of rhizomes. The role of Posidonia oceanica and Turkish seas and pressure has prepared by Turmepa, and this poster distributed to relevant institutions and or community and people in Turkey. We aim to inform all people and citizen science, under citizen science, we aim to informed all people and relevance. Also, the role of Posidonia is main biodiversity reservoir on the coast of Turkey. It about 1,000 more 1,100 species found in this community. Also, about 50 fish assemblies are found in Posidonia meadows for spawning and nursery. Also, sequestration of carbon, sediment stabilization in soft bottoms, and decrease in turbidity, hydrodynamism, dune stabilization, banquet, and primary productivity is very, very important role of Posidonia oceanica. We also calculate how many carbon sink in the by the Posidonia meadows. We found about 150,000 ton carbon sink in the meadows per year in all the Turkish coast. However, it's very affected by global warming, such as this Posidonia lower limit depths here, but we found that much of Posidonia about 28 meters depth. Somewhere also we found that much of in the 35 meters depth. And another effect and anthropogenic activities such as aquaculture, pollution, turbidity, mucilage formation. It's affected by all anthropogenic activities. However, we have a look at this photo and the pictures. We studied on monitoring of Posidonia oceanica in Turkey by METSI protocol. We used balisage system and to take photos from the lower limit depths every 6 months or yearly. In Fethiye Göcek special environmental protected areas, yachting, anchoring, pollution, and sedimentation are main pressure in here in Göcek, and we aim the restoration of anchoring image by transplantation of Posidonia oceanica in Göcek area. We found anchoring image about 1.50 meters wide from 12 meters depth to 25 meters depth. Anchoring image the meadows in Kille. We aim restoration and transplantation. Please have a look for before transplantation for this, and after transplantation, we transplanting settling between 13 to 16 meters by using jute fabric between October 2024 and October 2025. And after 6 months of restoration study, we have successed about 70% by transplantation. This after 6 months after transplantation, from 12 to 25 meters depth. And we have continued to transplantation and restoration in Fethiye Göcek SEPA, such as in this and this, in different areas and different depths. We aim to about 20,000 seeds for transplantation in this area for to next year. And I did prepare national action plan for conservation and marine vegetation in SEPA for Turkey in 2021, and I noted that 40 important issues for protection and conservation of sensitive habitats. First one, no establish a new harbor and marina our seagrass, Posidonia, and marine forest. Second one, prohibit fishing with especially trout nets, dredge, and similar nets over Posidonia and marine forest. 30, prohibit anchoring and mooring over seagrass and marine forest. And 30, no fishing farming above seagrass. And this our research team for transplantation, restoration, and for study on seagrass, Posidonia oceanica. This study has been supported by Ministry, Turmepa, and Guarantee BBVA. Thanks you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Argun Taşkın, for these valuable informations. This is the end of our session. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, you can take our informations from the desk and send us your questions. Mr. Manzarades, if you want to say anything. Final.
Now, well, from my side and biocarbon, a big applause to all of you. I think it's an exciting crowd. I've been around myself in some other panels, and it is brilliant to see these many young people, to see that this topic has brought a lot of interest, and I'm pretty sure from the younger generations we can make it happen. We need to protect and restore the seagrass beds, and we count on you for the young ones, and also maybe not so young ones as myself, but we come together. So a big hands to put them together for you too. Thank you.
Thank you.